right, we're good to go, Troy.
And welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us for Parks, Oklahoma City Parks and Rec. And I want to call this meeting to order. And before we get started, I want to remind everybody, if you want to share comments for the that aren't participating in the agenda, you can do that. There's still a few more minutes before we get to that part, so you can email Kendall Reed, and that is kendallreed@orcity.org. Or if you can, do we have the chat open, Kendall, if they wanted to send a message in there, or is that closed?
The chat isn't open.
Okay, so email is your option. And when we get to there, we'll give everyone an opportunity to share what they need to share. So we're going to call this meeting to order. And first, we'll do introductions. And in order on my screen, Andy Crump, you want to wave at everybody and let us know that you're here? And Derek Kugel.
Yep.
And Brent.
Yep.
And we got Tim. Tim is here. I promise you, he's on off video, but he is here. And then Karen Morey.
Verbal wave.
All right. Two. And then Sean Dashler. And then I am Troy Bollinger. And before we move on, I want to give just, I don't know, Sean, what do you need? About 15 seconds? Sean wants to share something with us here.
Yeah, not long at all. Just thought I'd let you guys know that I emailed the mayor earlier last week and decided that basically my term at the end of the year will be kind of my completion time on PRAC.
What? Yeah. You've done a lot.
So,
wow.
Did you forget to take a poll?
Well, I was gonna say we do have. He says to the end of the year, so we do have between now and December's meeting to edit the bylaws requiring an acceptance of a resignation. So if we choose to do that, we might get him for another couple of years. But no, we appreciate what Sean's done. We're going to hear from him a little bit more in December as his final meeting. But the reason Sean chose this now was knowing that we've got a couple of positions to fill and we've got applicants. It made sense to have an additional position now versus wait until after we filled them and closed it and then just have to reopen it again. So we appreciate that consideration. Although we do not appreciate the resignation, we'll accept it. So, but thank you very much, Sean, for everything. And for all of you, as you can probably tell, I'm sitting in my car in the parking lot waiting for my son. So if I do have to move on and take my son to his next activity, then I will be just pass the reins on to Sean. I'll turn the video off so I can drive if I need to, and then Sean will pick up from there. And when I come back on, then I'll take over. So if you see me leave, that's what's going on. Let's move on to the approval of the minutes from our meeting.
Brent has a question, Troy.
Oh,
I'm not
sorry,
sure if you're able to see that.
Yeah,
yeah. Quick question. So with these positions to fill, I hope that Sean will be a voice in the vote of any new members that might come on to PRAC. He will, because at this point, and Kendall will talk more about this in the staff report, so I don't want to go too much into it, but as we already do know, the mayor is redoing some of that process, and so assuming that gets handled in the next, I don't know, a few weeks or month, then we'll be looking at those positions. Sean will be a member still a member at the time, and so he'll have input and of course a vote and everything else as well. Okay. Sad to see you go, Sean.
Thank you. It's just time, kind of like I mentioned to the mayor, I had, like we all did, we all had goals when we came on to the board. And I feel like the major pieces that I've focused on really for many years have been completed now. And so it's time to move on to, I sit on a couple other boards and frankly, I'm kind of at the point where I'm a little overloaded. So it's time.
Understood. Okay.
So, and we do appreciate that. So the minutes from our July meeting, and just to remind everyone that's tuning in live or recorded, we did not meet in August. As is customary, we take that month off. So these are minutes from the meeting July 22nd. So for all members of the committee,
Any discussion or questions before we hear a motion to approve?
Troy, I have a motion. This is Karen.
Well, is it a
Following,
motion- Hang on a second. I just got a clarifying question. Is this a,
you need a motion before you have discussion.
well, hang on a second. Is this a motion to approve?
I'm going to move that we approve the minutes as
Okay.
transcribed,
Okay, well,
but I want to make a comment after the vote.
okay, well, I wish you wouldn't have done that, because like I said, we're gonna have a discussion before we hear a motion. So I appreciate it when I say that we'd adhere to that, but we do now have a motion, unfortunately, on the table, so we'll go with that. Do we hear a second? Okay, it looks like I saw Tim raise his hand, so we have a motion to approve and a second. And
Under Robert's Rules of Order, you now open discussion.
Karen, please. Karen, I'm going to ask you for order. I don't have a gavel. I just need you to respect the process. So what we're going to do now is have a discussion. If anybody has any questions, comments about the minutes. Okay, seeing no discussion. Kendall, you want to poll the
Sure.
committee?
Tim West? Tim, can you hear me?
Looks like he might have froze.
I think he's frozen.
Yeah,
Okay.
That's okay.
All right, thanks, Tim. Karen Maury,
Aye.
Troy Bollinger,
Aye.
Derek Kugel, Andy Crump,
Aye.
Sean Datchler,
Aye.
Brent Haverkamp.
Aye.
Okay. Item number 2 is the PrAC and
Troy, I have something I'd like to add to that, please.
Well, hang on, Karen. I just need you to respect the process here. You can just turn your hand raise on. Just turn your hand raise on. Get an opportunity. Is your question about the minutes?
Yes, it is.
Okay, that's fair. Just raise your hand and we'll get you called. Go ahead.
Okay. Okay, first of all, I want to commend whoever is transcribing these minutes. It was an excellent job. But I do want it noted that in the minutes as transcribed, item number 6 was a declaration that future meetings would be in person at City Hall. Given changes in policies in the city and the meetings that the commission is holding, that did not come to be, and I'd like to clarify that future meetings will be held as approved by the city management and the city commission. And that's just for the record for tonight, because that is 180 from item 6 on the July minutes.
Okay, thank you. That would have been appropriate during our discussion time, and we could have potentially addressed that before the vote.
No, the minutes were fine. They were at exactly what was said.
The number 2 is PrAC and City Commission goals. You all have the PrAC goals, and as we have, and one of them is to review the goals every 2 months, along with all other goals with the City Commission, as well as other subcommittees. So that's what we're doing here. And any questions, comments, or discussion about the alignment, not the goals themselves for PrAC, but just the alignment with the other City Commission and other goals. Okay, seeing none, move on to an update from Brent Haverkamp, who is currently chair of the naming committee for the commonly known Filbert Run Park.
All right. So sorry about that. It's it's a lot. The committee has met 3 times, and during the meetings, the group decided on our public engagement process, the mechanisms in which participants can submit naming suggestions. So long story short is we created our promotion materials and we distributed them through several ways. And basically the main way that we're focusing on having the names come into us is via a survey. And individuals can submit their naming suggestions via the survey. I believe that there was also, so the way that it is being sent out to the city is there are postings on the city website. There is an Oregon City newsletter that reaches 12,000 residents. There was a flyer sent to the CIC and all the neighborhood chairs. A letter was submitted to Oregon City News, and a direct mailer or postcard was sent to 164 neighbors that actually live in the neighborhood within a 600-foot buffer. And this is all in addition to the survey. So the survey went live on September 14th. It will close on October 8th. Basically, the next steps are, and the mailers have been sent, So once the survey is closed and people have been directed to where they want to go to submit their naming suggestions, we will reconvene, I think it's on October 12th, to review the naming suggestions. By October 31st, we are going to choose a final name. By November 1st, we will create a report and presentation to submit to the commission. And on December 1st, we will present the naming suggestion to the city commission. And that date has been set on there as an agenda item on the December 1st meeting.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any questions for Brent and the naming committee, or about the naming committee? Okay. We will look forward to hearing again another update from you next month.
Sounds good. Thank you.
See where we're at on all that. Then we have this is a discussion, volunteer coordinator discussion. This is something that Brent brought to our attention a few months ago, and then with him being out of town and then us not having a meeting, it's kind of been prolonged a little bit. But Brent, I'm going to just turn it back over to you to just kind of give us I guess an overview, a little summary, what it is you're wanting from us and to discuss, and then we'll open it up for discussion at that point.
Sure. So basically, long story short, is this is kind of I've met with Kathy a couple of times, and because I know that especially during this pandemic, the Pioneer Center has been inundated with trying to meet the needs of the public in a variety of ways. I stepped in and actually talked with Kathy to learn about this because I work for Providence, and I know that we have the community center down there near 15th and Washington. And I was wondering, so I went to Kathy to learn about what their needs are and everything. And I was wondering if there might be some way that we could utilize the Providence Community Center for their needs. She listed a variety of needs. I've reached out to the powers that be at Providence, but I have not been met with success. So one of the things that came out of my meeting with Kathy is they have so many things that happen down there. And I'm sorry, I don't have my itemized list right now. And Kathy, if you want to step in at any time, but one of the things that they need is a volunteer coordinator down there. Having seen firsthand the Pioneer Community Center and the programs that they offer, I have nothing but support for this. They need help, and we are here to serve the community. And I can't think of a better way to serve the community than providing them with a volunteer coordinator.
So a follow-up to that, and thank you for that. What do you envision, and this doesn't have to necessarily be what our end result is, but what are you envisioning at this point will be the responsibilities and the role of that volunteer coordinator?
That's a good question. And I feel that the responsibilities would be to go in there and help help with the program at the volunteer center, to help coordinate for whatever they need. Now, in my humble opinion, it could be a person somebody from Clackamas Community College who might need an internship. It could be, I don't know if it could be a paid position, but they desperately need somebody to go in there and help coordinate their needs, whether it's inspecting feet, whether it's delivering meals on wheels, whether it's helping people to get to their appointments. They serve the community in such a vast and great way that the one thing that was clear is they need a coordinator to help coordinate all the things that they do.
Okay, any questions, comments, discussion from committee?
Is there any, can Kathy speak to this at all as well, or is it just me?
I think Kendall has a question.
Hi, Kendall.
Hi. My staff and I have been having this conversation for several months, identifying the needs for the Parks and Recreation Department. And we identified this position right away because I know the Pioneer Center, they get a lot of requests or have a lot of needs in regards to volunteer opportunities. The Parks Department as well, Jenny and Deb are managing a lot of requests that are coming in into that department. And we see this as an opportunity to collaborate with the community, to maximize our resources. And we have been looking at opportunities to have an opportunity to centralize some of these services. And one of the things that we're looking to do is I'm in the process of hiring an administrative assistant. And part of their role is going to be looking at trying to centralize some of these volunteer opportunities to help with recruitment, to also help with managing the number of hours, the correspondence with these groups, so we can maximize these relationships with the volunteers that we currently have, and also recruit some additional volunteers in the future. So this is a priority of ours. I'll also let Kathy talk a little bit more about some of the opportunities that they have at the Pioneer Center. But I know with our parks, with our IV pools, with the volunteer opportunities that we have with the cemetery, there is a lot of people who are wanting to assist and help the parks and the senior center. And we want to be able to take advantage of those opportunities and maximize that resources. So that's something that we're going to be working on moving forward, and developing a plan to actually centralize these services with the help of my new administrative assistant.
So Kendall, I'm sorry, can I interject here? So it sounds like this, and thank you for saying all that. So it sounds like this is really a top priority, and it will help the Pioneer Center get the help that they need. Is that correct?
Yes, yes. Mm-hmm.
Great, thank you.
So Kendall, is this how do I say it? Maybe you answered this, but is this a decision that's already been made as a paid staff position?
Yes.
Okay. So in that case, and I don't think, Brent, tell me if I'm wrong, but I don't think that was your intent at the time you wanted this on the agenda. This was just a separate idea that you kind of had in your mind. Is that right?
Well, yes and no. It was kind of a separate idea at the time for the Pioneer Center because they needed so much help. But it sounds like in listening to Kendall, this is being addressed through a separate channel. I figured I could bring it up as a member of PRAC and bring it to PRAC's attention to help the Pioneer Center to get the assistance that it needs. That's one of the main reasons why I brought it up.
Okay. So then, all
I want to give this all the attention it deserves and needs, but I also want to clarify, would this be, are we at this point talking about the same thing, or Brent, are you looking at a volunteer coordinator position for the Pioneer Center separate from the one that Kendall's talking about?
Well, that's a good call out, Sean. So initially I was looking for a volunteer coordinator specifically for the Pioneer Center, but in listening to Kendall, this has been on his radar, and it sounds like, Kendall, you've talked with Kathy Wiseman about this. So,
Yes.
and to be frank, I haven't talked to Kathy Wiseman since the last time her and I discussed this at the time, and some months have gone by. So it sounds like it's one and the same at this time right now. Now, having said that, Troy, I think that the Pioneer Center could use as much help as they need. So if there was any way to, they could always expand more on what they do down there. They are such a huge asset to the community. And I think that what Kendall is doing is a start. And so I think with Kendall's role that he's putting out there as a paid position, that's a great start. And I would certainly hope that we could build from there.
Okay, so Kendall and or Kathy, do either of you kind of want to speak to that, being maybe the same position, or if you're envisioning something different?
So we know for the entire Oregon City that there's a need to manage these volunteer opportunities. Obviously, our focus as of right now is on the Parks Department. But we know that with this new position, we can start developing systems to where we can do some recruitment for specific positions. We can also maximize the resources that we have in regards to our parks. But we know that as this continues to grow, there will be a need to probably expand the position in the future. With the numerous responsibilities the administrative assistant might have, there might be a need to expand it, but also be able to communicate and advocate in the community to entice people to some of these volunteer opportunities that we have. Right now, we're recruiting for park host, which is a volunteer opportunity in our parks department, specifically at Chapin Park and Clackamas Park. So making sure that we get that information out to the public, and having Brent bring this up and advocate for us is going to be extremely important, but also maximizing the channels that we have so we can get the word out and make sure that people are aware of these opportunities. Working with Oregon City School District, the college, to make them aware of some of these opportunities. I think this is somewhat of an untapped resource. And because every department has tried to manage their own opportunities, I think once we centralize this, I think we'll be able to manage it a lot better.
Yeah, and if I can taper off on Kendall's comment there, I mean, I don't know if people really understand what the Pioneer Community Center does for the community. Some of the things that were brought to my attention were they deliver over 1,000 meals per week via Meals on Wheels. They help with mental health and social support groups for the vulnerable populations. This includes groups like NAR-Anon, which is Narcotics Anonymous, and AA. They also do a Parkinson's disease and Alzheimer's disease support group. They do medical transportation programs for seniors. They do foot care and assessment. They also serve as a cooling site on those scorching hot summer days. So there is a real need for a volunteer coordinator to help with this. And Kendall, I'm loving hearing that this is coming to a fruition. It's gaining some momentum.
Thank you very much. Kathy, did you want to chime in with anything?
Looks like Karen has her hand up.
Yeah, I'll go to Karen. I want to see if Kathy had anything just to kind of tag on to what Kendall had said.
Okay, Kathy, are we hearing from you? Okay, not hearing Kathy.
Hang on, Karen. Hold on.
I got this. Okay.
I think she's freezing. So I would move on to Karen. And then once she works through her issues, I'll let you know.
Oh, okay, sounds good. Karen, you have a question or comment?
I've got to say, I loved this idea from the beginning, but I did know that we're just a few months into a new biennium. And Kendall, I'm impressed that you found funding for an assistant. I know we've had a position like this staffed in the past. It can be a little overwhelming. If we have unexpended COVID-19 funds, I'm still in favor of the Pioneer Center getting additional assistance. One of the things that frustrated me this summer, the Oregonian printed huge lists of cooling centers, and the only cooling center they ever published in Oregon City was Father's Heart Ministry. We're not getting the information out to the community the way that we need to. And I would say the assistant and a citywide or at least department-wide recruiter for volunteers is a fantastic idea. I'm going to say I still think the Pioneer Center may need additional assistance. And it seems like everybody's got a pocket with COVID-19 money in it. So if some of that could be found until this biennium is over, I think that would be a good person to add to your new assistant. And that's it.
Thank you, Karen. Kathy, are you ready? Is Kathy ready for us?
You lit up there for a second.
Okay. Well, we will come back to you if you can get things ready. But is anybody in the meantime? Does anyone else have any questions for Kendall or Brent? Any comments? Okay. Brent, I'm going to ask you, Brent, because I know this is really important to you. Maybe, I guess, not as anything formal, but kind of an informal. I guess I would just ask you to keep this on your radar because it is important to you. But then I'm sure Kendall or Kathy will be bringing us, staff reports or including some of this in their staff reports as time goes on as well. So
Will do.
I'm looking forward to what happens here. So, so now moving on. Oh, are you raising your hand?
Yeah, I am. I was going to tell Karen she should probably lower her hand on the monitor. Perfect. Awesome, Karen. Thank you.
And then moving on to Denise with a Veterans Memorial Plaza renovation update.
Hi, good evening, PrAC members. If Kendall will allow me to share my screen.
All right.
Just 1 second. Are you guys able to see that?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. So our Veteran Memorial project started right around 2019. And I have to give a lot of kudos and credits to Ginny King, who's now our administrative assistant. She is actually the project manager on this. So she spearheaded the idea and the concept of renovating this plaza area that is basically has gotten to a degradation point of trip hazards and falling apart. She really wanted to make this a place where it showed and showcased the war memorial. So through grants and donations and maintenance funds, the process started with a design for an ADA accessible replacement for our wearing and deteriorating Veterans Memorial. They did, if you notice those big stars, on those plans. They did an arborist report for those stars, which are our giant sequoias. Those are very well established in that area, and they wanted to make sure that whatever they did in proceeding on this project didn't impact them. So that was a high priority when we were looking at this renovation of this project. So we worked with Lango Hansen Landscape Architects to design something that would fit in the same area of the current memorial, but also least impacting of our giant trees. So what you're seeing on the screen is the product of what Lango Hansen produced with input from our stakeholders, which was our friends of the cemetery and staff, and I believe the PO, Parents of Murdered Children, which is adjacent to this war memorial area. So with those stakeholders and input from everybody, this design came to fruition. This summer, so Ginny actually also put in a lot of time and effort to the grants that we did to get to this design point, as well as what I'll show you next in this project. But summer of 2021, we started the concrete work on this project. This is a rendition of what those memorial plaques, we have them embedded and we've saved them from the old memorial, and they would be placed in this wall. So that's just a rendition of that. This is some of the concrete work that's done this summer. And if you look, you can see the shop, and just to your left corner is the office. And to your right corner would be the entrance from Hilda, just for orientation purposes. And just a little further back view. There are these little rounded, along the pathway, little rounded areas. Those would be the pedestals for each of the military branches. And there would be a symbol on each of those pedestals to delineate that. Some of the step down and railings of the concrete work, and another viewpoint. That top of the stairway, that flat gravel area, is where we would be putting those pavers that I showed you in the very first diagram of the design. So that's where we are today. So that has been phase one. This project has been predicted to be into 3 phases. And so with that, phase 2 would entail the installation of the flagpole and the pavers and irrigation. Phase 3 would be the podiums, benches, signage, and landscaping. And at this point, we're looking at potential grant opportunities, and Ginny has identified 4 potential ones with some timelines, the award amounts, and the project timelines once those awards are done. The problem that we had last year is that we weren't able to find out what our grant funds actually were because COVID was affecting the grant funds. So we don't know if COVID will continue to affect these grant funds or not. That's an unknown factor at this point. But we are looking at these grants and the grant timing to see if we can go ahead and maneuver that into our phase 2 and 3 options to continue this project forward. And that's all I have as far as tonight's presentation for you. Let me stop sharing.
Okay. Thank you.
So basically we're looking at those, the second and third phase and the grant funding to move forward. Are there any questions I can answer?
Yeah, it looks like Karen, you've got your hand up. Karen, why don't you go ahead?
Yeah, Denise, include in the thank yous, Friends of Mountain View Cemetery.
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
Karen for driving staff absolutely insane over the last 6 years.
Karen
overdoing this.
Karen has been integral in this process as well. So, and the Friends of the Cemetery.
but also VFW post number 1324
And
have
Wait.
partnered with us.
yes,
And I am so happy to see how far this has gone. The one step that we need, though, for committee members is local businesses and other veterans to donate to this project. And we don't have a fancy form, system for doing it. But if you know somebody, talk to them, because we need the money to finish it off.
that's a perfect segue into the VFW has donated $12,000 towards this project. And so we very much appreciate them for that. I know they were going to be recognized for that donation with the city commission.
Yeah, I figure grocery outlet and Safeway or somebody else could also, because there's veterans all over Oregon City that could be helping us with this.
Brent, you had a comment or a question for us?
Yep. Hold on for a second. Lower my hand. Hey, Denise, I think that looks really good. I have two comments or questions. The first is, I love skateboarding, but I think war memorials need to be places of sacred. And I didn't see any anti-skate railing devices in the concrete. Will those be put in? Do you know?
Those aren't done yet. So we do have concrete seating that'll be put on inside of those it's a base wall right now. So there is going to be some benching, and that has been discussed, is to have skate deterrence. Although we also have signage and cameras in the cemetery as well.
Okay, I could see. I know, like if I was a 15-year-old and I saw that, I'd be like, "Oh boy, that looks like some inviting territory." The second thing I have to say, and it's kind of nitpicky, and I don't know if there's plans for this down the road, but we actually have 6 branches of the military now, including Space Force.
That has been considered, yes.
Okay, good. And I know people don't really think of that, but that might be something we might want to add down the road.
That has definitely been discussed, and it's on everybody's minds about where the 6th piece would be.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Kendall, you got your hand up for us.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, when we started this project, obviously, like our park projects, we wanted to make the community aware of what we were doing, be able to track the progress. And so you guys are familiar with our parks project page on our website. So what we've done is we've included the Veterans Memorial as well to track the progress of that project and to provide background information on what we're doing. But we also provided a button on there for people who want to donate. So if organizations, if businesses, if community members would like to donate to this project, there's an opportunity for them to go to our website and click on the donate button and be able to do that. The other thing that we want to do is highlight the gift that we're getting from VFW. So we're going to actually attach a story to highlight their generosity, hopefully to inspire other organizations to chime in and to be a part of this process. Because like Karen said, we want to complete this project, but we just need some additional funds in order to move this forward. So just wanted everyone to be aware of that.
Kendall, thank you very much. Anyone else have any questions, comments for Denise? Okay, Denise, thank you very much. Appreciate that. You may notice a subtle change in the format of our agenda, and because it's so subtle, maybe you didn't notice a change. But we used to do member reports before the staff reports, and what we found is that by doing that, sometimes during the member reports, questions came up that were intended already and already planned to be covered in the staff reports. So we thought, for efficiency purposes, we'd move those around and let Kendall and his team give us their reports, which may answer some of the questions we would have otherwise asked. And then, of course, we'll go to the member reports afterward, and that'll be the time to ask, or not, excuse me, that'll be the time to give a report. But remember, that's not the time to bring up agenda items or thoughts and ideas, but simply to give a report if you have one. So Kendall, we'll turn it over to you for your staff reports.
I just have a few announcements. The first thing that I like to bring up is the vacant positions that we will have on PrAC. As some of you are aware, with some resignations, we currently have 2 vacancies, Jeff Sargent's position, Alicia Hammock's position, and we have our teen position that's still vacant. A term that will expire, Derek Kugel's term expires at the end of the year, so that would be a 3rd. And with Sean's resignation, that would be a 4th position we would need to fill. So as Troy referenced, and I sent out an email to everyone letting them know about putting the pause on moving forward with the interview process. And we're waiting for some additional direction from the mayor on how she wants to change the process. So we should be getting that information in the next couple of weeks. So my hope and my goal is that in the month of October, that I'll be able to send that information out to all of the PrAC members, and then we will be able to schedule those interviews. We currently have 4 applicants who have applied for the vacant positions. We did do some outreach to those applicants to make sure that they were aware of this delay, so they knew that we would be following up with them. So hopefully in the next couple of weeks, we will be able to go ahead and get those interviews scheduled and make everyone aware of that process.
Cool.
The other thing that I like to announce, I announced it a little bit early, is I was permitted to hire my first administrative assistant. So I'm really excited about that. They will start in October. They'll be a part of this meeting. So I will look forward to introducing them to all of you. One of their roles is going to help facilitate developing a program to centralize our services when it comes to volunteer coordination and managing some of our volunteer opportunities. It's a much needed position for the Parks Department. So I'm excited to introduce them to you and get that moving forward. The other thing I like to bring up is Filbert Run Park is going extremely well. If you haven't had the opportunity to look at some of the new drone footage and pictures that we have up on our project page, please take a look at that. The shelter's up. The concrete, the pervious concrete should be completed, and the walking paths should be pretty close to completion this week. We are experiencing some delays on our playground equipment and our light poles, but everything else seems to be moving fairly smoothly. So we're really excited about that. The other thing, since Rochelle isn't here, I just wanted to highlight that the pool was able to close and get some much needed repairs done to the pool, the repainting of the pool shell, and they were able to reopen on September 13th, and things are going well after that repair. So next, I'll turn it over to Denise to provide some updates on some of our capital projects and also provide an update on our deferred maintenance. Denise?
So on our completed project list, we can add DC Lotterette as a fully complete project. The final fence finishes were completed in the last week or so. And so that one is now come to a close. Deferred maintenance, I sent on my report to everyone kind of where we're at and what we're going through in terms of projects and upcoming projects. So for our upcoming projects, We are looking at 2 HVACs for the Pioneer Center. We're just about ready to look at our contracting. We've gotten the quotes back, so we'll start our contracting for that. The cemetery mausoleum roofs are also on that listing for this biennium. And due to where we are in the season, we'll probably look to do a advertisement for bids late winter, and that would give us contracts ready for late spring and hoping to start that project during dry weather. City Hall had the elevator door operator fail. We have replaced that. We're looking at a spring slurry seal and striping that will piggyback onto the paving projects for Public Works. We'll coordinate with them this winter. And then we have a carpet project in City Hall, and we'll just wait for engineering to move out to the new First Street building before we start tackling that project. The library flooring has a replacement in the Carnegie side, and that's the hardwood over in the Carnegie side of the building. And we're looking to do a bid project for that and a timeline that works with the staffing at the library for their schedule. So we're still coordinating that with them. And then building planning has a parking lot maintenance and repair project that also would be a piggyback onto the Public Works contract for paving maintenance. We'll coordinate again with them this winter for that and see what works for them. And Kathy asked me to go ahead and let you folks know she can't do her report. She's frozen. So she says that the new bus driver is hired, getting busy on the bus. So trips just started. Looking for instructors for arts and crafts cooking. We'll need volunteers for Meals on Wheels, activity helpers like bingo caller and garden upkeep at this time. In the future, we'll be looking for a kitchen staff. The annual appeal letter will be going out in October, and we'll be partnering with the Parks Department to highlight donations to be made to the volunteers and for the War Memorial. So let's see. And she also says Jasper is raving about the park playground structure and the dog park, and people love it. So that was from Kathy.
All right. Well, thanks, Denise. Another update on our presentation to the City Commission. As you guys are aware, we did go before the City Commission to present the communication plan to the City Commission with some examples of fees and fee adjustments associated with cost recovery. They agreed with the policy. They've asked us to do some additional work in regards to our special event process and special event fees. We are starting to work on that process. And then in October, our plan is to come back to the City Commission with the master fee schedule and the policy, hopefully to get that policy approved. Another update on deferred maintenance and the assessment and capital improvement plan. We did present that plan to the City Commission. The next step for us is to hire a consultant to do some research on some of the top funding options and also do some public engagement. So the next step for us is to put out an RFP to move that process along, submitting that RFP to the City Commission for approval. And that completes our update for tonight.
Thank you, Kendall. Hey, Sean, can you take over from here and finish the meeting out for us, please?
Yeah, sure. No problem. So I think we're at, let me go back up a page. Member reports then. Anybody have a member report they want to talk about?
Although I want to give a shout out of thanks to Jonathan Waverly for getting his crew to pave a sidewalk on either side of the cement bump out that we have on our pickleball court. And is great because it allows us not to drag in the mud and dirt and gravel onto our court. So got to say thank you very much. That's my report.
Great, thanks, Tim. Anybody else? Andy, Brent, Derek, Karen? Well,
Sean, frighteningly, no.
well, I'm looking at the agenda, member reports, future agenda items. Anybody have a future agenda item we should talk about?
I have a few.
Great.
I would like to find out or put on the agenda, what does the Park and Rec Advisory Committee or the city have for plans for new parks? Do we have a budget to buy land and make things happen down the line here? And that would be a nice discussion item to have right there. All right. So, and I know, Kendall, you probably have a whole list of things, but it's something that I haven't heard yet. All right. So that's one item is new parks. The other is I'd love to know what's going on with the Oregon City Marina. I know that you're involved in negotiations with getting things going. Can you give us an update on what's happening over there? And then I noticed that the wire railing, that fence right on the boardwalk overlooking the Oregon City Marina, looks like people have been climbing up and over that fence. It might be the homeless that are camped underneath that fence that are jumping on it, but it looks like they're in disrepair and all loose wire. So just love to see what we could do to update on those items.
Thank you, Tim. I appreciate that. And in fact, one of mine was to discuss the SDCs. In other words, have a small report of how much money is in that budget currently, and talk about land acquisition opportunities. That's kind of one of the next stages we need to keep our eye on. If we look at Tyrone S. Woods, we bought that 13 years ago, and we currently don't have any large properties sitting waiting to be developed. So it's kind of a next logical step. And then Tim, if I can also clarify, are you referring to the wire railing at John Storm Park or somewhere else?
No, it's the wire railing that's overlooking the Oregon City Marina. So it is right on, it's directly opposite the car lot. Okay, so the Subaru dealership. So,
oh, okay, that's not a park property. You're talking on the promenade there.
Promenade, yeah, that's
Yeah,
not property.
that's a public works property.
all right, never mind. Okay, thanks.
Okay, Derek.
Yeah, just piggyback kind of up on what Tim was saying as far as park land. Along Beaver Creek Road, I know we've talked about the new or Trimble Creek project or Beaver Creek project, but they're definitely moving along. They've started work on another area, so we just need to keep that in mind as it goes along before it gets too far along and the parks get forgotten. I'm sure it won't be, but it's moving right along. The other thing is Tyrone S. Woods Park. If no one's been over there, it's a huge hit. I know someone already mentioned it, but I live right there, and it is busy. So bring your dog over there because there's hundreds. So
yeah, I agree, Derek. I was actually there last night with my daughter. The only disappointing thing I'm still seeing is it looks like no herbicides have ever been used on the lawn turf, and seems like the entire thing was seeded with clover, and that's kind of frustrating. I mean, I know we saw it in the beginning, but I would have thought it would have been dealt with over the summer. Brent.
Yeah, as far as future agenda items, kind of like I want to piggyback on what Tim said. I think that not only looking at our goals, but looking at what parks in what part of the city, where does the city need parks the most, is where we need to be, is a future agenda item for me.
Great. Thank you, Brent. Kendall.
Yeah, I just wanted to reference that question about parks and land acquisition. Two things. The update of the Parks Master Plan will dictate areas or opportunities for land acquisition. So when we update that plan, that will provide the direction for the Parks Department and what areas aren't being served and what areas will need to be served. A function of this master plan will do some equity mapping and outline where we have parks and where we don't have parks. It will also engage with the community to ask questions about what their needs are, what amenities they're looking for. The other topic about land and acquiring additional land, we do have pieces of land that we still need to develop. We do have parks that need to be developed. I want everyone still to be aware that we will still be moving forward with putting out an RFP in October to do some master planning for Clackamas Park. And that's going to be something that's going to be at the top of everybody's mind in regards to investing some funds in developing that park moving forward. So one of the things that we've had conversations about in regards to like the future, and part of the conversation was around deferred maintenance. We've added additional parks. We haven't added additional staff. We haven't added additional money. So us purchasing land, I know we need to purchase land and we'd like to add additional parks, but we also need to shore up our budget when it comes to deferred maintenance, tackling deferred maintenance, adding additional staff so we can maintain the parks that we do have. And we can make sure that the parks aren't in disrepair and that we have the funds necessary to keep our parks green and clean and looking great. And John and his staff do a very good job with limited resources. But long term, we need to have a better plan moving forward to make sure that we have the funding that we need, that we can maintain what we have as well.
Great. Thank you, Kendall. That's the end of it, unless anybody else has any other comments or questions or future agenda items. Yes,
Kendall, when are you going to go ahead and find out about the budget and when is that going to be approved?
The budget, and if you're referring to funding strategies for deferred maintenance that will address deferred maintenance and operations, that's going to take some time. We're going to be putting out an RFP to hire a consultant to do some research for us, and then we'll be planning on bringing that back. It'll probably be next year before we'll be able to bring that information back to the City Commission or back to PRAC and the City Commission to get some additional input after that information is presented. But in regards to long-term funding, in regards to address all of our deferred maintenance, that's going to take some time.
Do you have any plans to be hiring any new people, or are you waiting for that budget approval?
We have our budget approved for this biennium. And in that budget, we have the opportunity to hire some additional staff. For instance, I was approved for the administrative assistant. We were approved for an additional seasonal employee. So there are some positions that we were given to help with some of the workload and additional responsibilities. But in regards to adding additional positions or being given additional money to hire additional people, we haven't been given that.
Aaron, it looks like you have your hand up.
Sorry, Sean, couldn't resist. Future agenda items, and Kendall knows where I'm coming from on this. The use of the John Storm dock and the contract with Sportcraft. I think we've kind of nudged on those through other people, but I think both of those will need updates when they're available. got that? Kendall, do you understand what I'm asking for?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Seeing no other hands. Oh, yeah. Are you saying hi or are you saying goodbye, Andy? Okay. All right, everyone. Thank you for a good evening tonight. Appreciate all staff's work. Kendall, great job as usual. And we'll see you next month.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you, everybody.